You've heard the saying that crime will always be with us, but there are some big questions these days about what form it's going to take.
Organized crime is undergoing enormous changes, and it means new challenges for the law officials who fight the mob. Bob O'Brien reports.
Wiseguys just aren't what they used to be. Not only do the names and faces constantly change, sometimes those changes are dramatic, permanent, and quite sudden. Mobsters and mob experts agree. New Wiseguys must be far more creative than their former godfathers just to stay in business, out of jail, and alive.
Lots of New Yorkers travel this scenic stretch of Route 6 just on the edge of the Pocono Mountain resort town of Milford, Pennsylvania. It's a great place to summer, to ski, and simply to escape the hassles and pressures of New York City.
Hassles like this 4th of July celebration on 101st Avenue in South Ozone Park, Queens, where John Gotti's Bergen Hunt and Fish Club sits. Each Independence Day, for several years, the Gotti crew shows its own independence from the law by setting off tons of fireworks in the middle of 101st Avenue. When the cops tried to stop the conflagration, they were hooted down by Gotti's fans.
We want the rights! We want the rights! The rights to the animals, so would be that.
The cops failed, the Gottis prevailed, and the fireworks wailed until well past midnight.
No such fireworks around this part of Pike County, PA, where Eugene McCarthy is prominently posted on polls as a politician running for president. But a lot of local people around here were pretty surprised to learn who bought a house up at the top of this hill over a knoll where no one could see it from the road. Just the kind of place that might appeal to the Gotti family of Howard Beach, Queens.
But if you happen to be up in a helicopter, it's easy to scope out the Gotti compound. Just a few miles into Pennsylvania from the monument that marks the highest point in the state of New Jersey lies the 3-acre, $300,000 hilltop home owned jointly by John Gotti Jr. and his sister Vicky's husband, Carmine Agnello. So we took to the air with the man whose job it is to keep the peace in this nook of the Delaware Valley, Milford Police Chief Gary Williams. Even though the rambling Pocono retreat is owned by his kids, John Gotti Sr., the Dapper Don himself, is a frequent guest, along with his children and grandchildren. Chief Williams told us the Dapper Don is becoming something of a local fixture around Milford.
My wife has seen him in the Grand Union, but outside of that, I've never even seen a man besides seeing his vehicle going up and down the road a couple times.
You mean John Gotti goes to the Grand Union and shops for himself?
He was in there one night picking out a sympathy card, and my wife had to give him a hand picking it out.
You know who the sympathy card was for?
No, I don't.
One can only imagine, I guess, huh?
Lawmen figure it's a sure thing John Gotti never sent a sympathy card to Paul Castellano, the man who preceded Gotti as the head of the Gambino crime family. John Gotti rose to the top of the mob the old-fashioned way, moving upwards as bullets took out his predecessors. But unlike godfathers in the past, John Gotti has become a media star, a cover boy, a man who gets almost as much ink and television time as Donald Trump. And, like other modern entrepreneurs, the new Wiseguys are divesting their holdings and ventures. The federal prosecutor with the toughest crime-busting record in modern times is Rudolph Giuliani.
The thing, I guess, that's unique about La Cosa Nostra is the diversification of its criminal business. It's not just involved in drugs, it's not just involved in extortion, it's not just involved in labor racketeering, it's involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including infiltration of legitimate businesses.
Legitimate businesses like supermarkets. Meet Pasquale Patsy Conti, identified by lawmen as one of Gotti's Gambino mob associates. At one time, Conti was a member of the board of directors of the 145-store Key Food Store Cooperative. Conti Key Food still owns 11 of those Key Food stores around town. Back in February of 1987, near the conclusion of the federal Pizza Connection trial that put 18 mobsters behind bars, one of the defendants, Pietro Alfano, was gunned down on a Greenwich Village street. Supermarket king Conti was busted and charged with setting up the Alfano hit. The charges were dropped when a mob witness refused to testify. Patsy Conti has never been convicted of any crime. Many Pizza Connection mobsters became very adept at divestment, putting their ill-gotten gains into things like the construction of yuppie condominiums in New Jersey, federally subsidized low-income housing projects, and luxurious Upper East Side restaurants. When mobsters have trouble with the law, they hire lawyers. When mobsters have trouble with other mobsters, they often hire a gun. And when mob wars begin in earnest, bodies begin to fall. The FBI claims to have saved the lives of both John Gotti and his brother Gene late last year, when New Jersey mobster Bobby Manna was arrested for plotting to wipe out the Gotti brothers. But what would happen if there were to be a mob war in the Pennsylvania Poconos?
How many people could you marshal if there was a mob shootout here?
Not too many. We'd have to call for some real quick backup from the Pennsylvania State Police.
And in your knowledge of mob shootouts, whether written or actual, do you think that calling for assistance is going to be any good if the mob war breaks out?
Not really, because by the time anybody gets together, it's going to be all over with.
So as the sun sets over the Poconos behind the Gotti's lovely country place each night, automatic security lights come on, flooding the area with enough light to illuminate Coney Island. Well, maybe Howard Beach, anyway. Because it's not just the law that's threatening the Gottis and others like them, but the recent growth in the power and danger of other new wise guys, mobsters without codes of honor, who have brought slaughter and mayhem to our streets. Bob O'Brien, Fox News, Channel 5.
Somebody wants John Gotti dead and will kill his kid, John Gotti Jr., to get that message across. In fact, the Gottis have so many enemies in and out of their alleged crime family that now that they're perceived as being weak, there's a line forming to take their place. But the word on the street and among law enforcement is that any such move has to be checked off first by Jimmy Brown Failla, who allegedly heads a powerful faction within Gotti's own supposed organization. All of this is fallout from the defection to the feds of Sammy Bull Gravano, whom Gotti supposedly named as the Gambino's number 2 man. As one of the old guard, Jimmy Brown Failla has the support of peers among the Gambinos and other crime families. And unlike the flamboyant Gottis, who throw spectacular 4th of July block parties or choreograph their grand entrance to a funeral, Failla is low-key. At the same time, spectacular things seem to happen around Failla. For instance, when Paul Castellano was killed outside Sparks Steakhouse, the hit that supposedly was Gotti's move to take over the Gambinos, Jimmy Brown Failla was allegedly waiting inside the restaurant for Castellano. And when another guy Gotti had once named to be number 2, Frank DeChico, was blown up a few months later after getting into his car, it was after DeChico had left Failla's Brooklyn Social Club. By the way, in the old days, Jimmy Brown used to be a driver for the last true boss of all bosses, the late Carlo Gambino. The bottom line today, though, is that John Gotti Jr., and anyone perceived as being loyal to them may be in a jam. They didn't exactly vote their way into office, and now there's guys with guns who want to have new elections. I'm Pablo Guzman, Fox News, New York.